Welcome to Financial Awareness for Families in Care. My name is Olatunji Taylor, founder of Eric Cares Alliance, where we support families and caregivers navigating the emotional and practical realities of care. So today is exciting because we are focusing on something very interesting. It's what many families struggle to talk about, and that is the money side of caregiving, and how to navigate home care costs and find financial resources without burning out, or breaking down. So I'm joined by my friend and mentor, Mr. Dan. Well, I call him Mr. Dan. He's the owner of Elite Home Care. And every day, every day, he walks alongside families as they care for their loved ones at home. Dan, could you please introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yes, you were doing great though. I like that. But Dan Williams, Elite Home Care here in San Diego. We're going on our fourth year, and we've seen a lot of growth, and it starts with our own families. But what we find is there's families want to help, but oftentimes they also need to go to work. Families want to help, and sometimes they're exhausted and tired. And families want to help, but oftentimes they may not have the means. So having financial advisors, having realtors can get a good broad view, they can, of the perspective of how do we take care of this needed time. So as our caregivers come, it's a people say, oh, it's this or that. Well, the reality is it's a very small margin. There's tons of training and insurance and all type of protections that have to be paid. So just wanted to give you guys a little look today through the back door of how people are being successful.
Thanks, Dan. And we also have Eric, is the president and founder of Simplify. And I'll also say that every day it helps families make sense of their finances, And I say every day because financial decision is what we make every time. I would say every second, especially with health and caregiving when they need change. So, Eric, please tell us more about what you do.
Yeah, thanks, TJ, and to the other panelists. This is a nice opportunity to share a little bit about the story in terms of how we get involved with our clients. So I'm a board certified financial planner and founder of Simplify. Our company is in its 20th year. And I know it looks like I may have just gotten out of college, but I've been a financial advisor for almost 30 years. And we focus primarily on clients that are retired or about to retire. So our typical client right now is about 65 to 70 years old. Our oldest client just turned 100 a couple of months ago. And so this is very deep in what we deal with clients in terms of either caring for a parent or we're getting involved with children of our clients that are taking care of our clients because of either diminished cognitive function or falls or just long-term illnesses, ALS, Parkinson's, etc. So this topic is particularly near and dear to my heart because we have so many clients that are facing this. And so we are involved a lot when it comes to the finances. Mom and dad have IRAs, mom and dad have real estate. And so the function of can we afford it? Again, like Dan had mentioned, most families are overwhelmed with the care aspect. A lot of families don't know anything when it comes to finances about taxes and how to navigate those things. So this is something that we are working with, I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but certainly every month we're having a client that is in this particular situation that we're working with other professionals to help them navigate how to get from point A to point B.
All right. Thanks so much, Eric. I appreciate that. And Dennis is thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Is the president and founder of Ryder Homes. He also helps families to think about their home, not just as a shelter or a place they love, but also I believe as a part of key as a key part of their financial picture, if I'm correct. So Dennis, you want to tell us more about what you do?
Yes, so that's very important, that stage of life, right? Where our clients go through. And then we at Writer Homes, we help relocate families throughout the country or locally, and to find that next home for them. They might be downsizing because of stairs or because they're moving closer to their family, right? And then we plan that out for them. What does that look like? And help them go through that process. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of time, and then we do it very delicately and with their thoughts, their main goals and thoughts in mind. So that's what we really do. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. And for me, this topic is really important to me because maybe because I've been a caregiver for for a long time, and on top of that, I've worked as an admin, as an operation manager in home cares, and I know caregiving is emotionally meaningful. I don't want to say stressful, but at the same time, it is financially heavy. So it is a major struggle that we can't but just think and talk about it. So now this is to everyone, to Mr. Dan, Mr. Eric and Mr. Dennis. I have a question. So, but let me start with Eric. You work closely with families in various situations every day. What kinds of costs and pressures are they dealing with?
Well, I mean, if you take a typical couple who is living the American dream in this country, this is one topic that a lot of folks don't address. It's people have their lives mapped out in advance. I want to go to a good school, fall in love, get married, work for the same company for 30 years, and have a retirement, collect my Social Security, pay off my house, etc. And that's what we all have in mind when we are young and naive and before life smacks us up in the face. And for a lot of people, that reality is recognized. They save their 10, 15%, whatever it is in their 401k, live a comfortable retirement. Usually mom passes away first. Dad,
Yeah.
7 to 10 years, excuse me, the other way around. Dad
Yeah.
passes away first. And then 7-ish years later, mom passes away. The house gets sold. There's a little bit of money left in retirement that gets split amongst the 2.4 children that that family had, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and life moves on.
Mm,
Now, fast forward and it's 2025, that situation can be further from the truth because we have so many other issues, namely being just the cost of living in retirement that a lot of folks face. The cost of living, even when we're working, we're in Southern California, we're probably one of the top 10% most expensive zip codes on all costs. So it's not just gasoline, groceries, it's literally everything. And so when that dream of retirement doesn't happen and we have an unexpected expense that could be, well, now mom's unable to care for herself or dad, and now we've got an expense of $6,000 a month, $8,000 a month to provide care. That throws a serious wrench in the retirement plans because dad is still alive, we still have the house, and we have to navigate both things. Typically, winning the lottery isn't something that we factor in when it comes to a financial plan.
mm,
And we also don't factor in that there's a rich son-in-law in the picture that's going to just graciously pick up these costs.
right, right. Thanks for that, Eric. But Dan, I know you have some experience in this as well because you work with families. So what does the financial side of caregiving actually look like for families? Because if we zoom into one day in the life of a typical caregiving family, what might the money side of that day look like?
Well, I think it's a combination of two things. One, it's change. And a lot of times for seniors, that's hard. They
Mm,
have lives where they're driving and going to the grocery store and this, that, and a lot of times they're too old for that. Um, I think the biggest thing is what type of care. So there's a type of care where you're in a facility, it's a large institution, but today many people want to stay home in their home. My parents said, "Hey, we're not moving until we're on a gurney and our boots are up." So that's the philosophy that they had because getting to owning a home, picket fence, two-car garage, that was the dream they had when they started with the finances and where they wanted to go. So what we do is we try to help them on an in-home basis. That it gives a lot of dignity to their loved one and it gives care from the family. Now, sometimes that's not possible because there aren't enough family members to help out. There's a lot of different things, but that's where we kind of work with Eric when it comes to like financing, that type of thing, or with Dennis if they need to take their home and how can they best utilize that equity, different ways to to keep dignity in the family where they want to be, which is at home.
Yeah, and I feel I think, it has, emotional weight, when families are going through or thinking about, oh, we are running out of money,
Mhm.
they have the guilt, the constant uncertainty. So I mean, I don't want to be in that kind of situation, and that is why today I see myself as a student, and even though I'm part of this webinar as a panelist, but I want to learn. Um, especially from Eric and Dennis. But before I move to Dennis, I want to quickly ask Eric again. So, in simple terms, like you said, you work, you specialize, in making sure that people retire well, with confidence, let me so to say. So, at what age or stage of life should an average American start thinking about financial planning, especially for, retirement or old age?
Well, I think whoever's listening to this podcast, my answer would be right now.
Right.
And right now could mean age 25. It could be a listener that's, 53 years old. I think the biggest problem, well, there's lots of problems in society, but one large problem that I see as a certified financial planner is there is zero formal financial education in this country. So the average young adult will enter adulthood with zero financial literacy unless they pick up. I was very fortunate. I had parents that really pounded the value of a dollar. We talked about compound interest, work ethic, etc. But I would say for the average person listening to this conversation, it's no different than how do we maintain a healthy body weight? We do it by eating well and exercising. Preferably, we do that every day. This is no different. So, to build this habit of having good financial nutrition, it is a daily exercise and it takes a lot of self-discipline because everything we see on the internet is encouraging us to keep up with the Joneses, spend more money, buy this and your problems will go away, buy this and your marriage will get better.
Mhm.
It really doesn't work that way. So, in terms of this whole concept that we're talking about, which is planning ahead for a successful retirement, planning ahead so mom and dad can stay in their home if they need to, or if they desire to, planning to stay in the home if I want to, and have that last quarter of my life be on my own terms.
Right.
That all requires reverse engineering, starting with the end in mind. And typically that means having a lot of self-discipline to take a percentage of one's income and start saving as much and aggressively as possible for that future, whether it's for you, your parents, or loved ones. Not one of my clients in almost 30 years have complained because they've had too much money in retirement. Not one. But I've had a whole lot of people complain saying, I wish I would have done this sooner. I wish I would have been more prepared. I wish I would have had more money to be able to prepare for this.
Right.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Good point. Yep.
Thanks, Eric. So tennis. Uh, so many families' biggest asset is their home. I mean, I've seen a lot of people having, homes. Um, but from your perspective, why is housing such an important part of this conversation as far as financial wellness is concerned?
Yeah. the housing is a big part of it because, like Eric mentioned, they've been living there for many, many years, the American dream, and you get to this stage. Uh, so what our approach is a little bit different. It depends what level that client is, number one. But what we do, we like to when we meet our clients, we like to set up a meeting and we ask them, what is your goal for
Mm.
that couple or the children usually come along. I'm working about three or four of them right now, including my mom, by the way. And I had to bring her here from New Mexico because she's 83 and she's has things going on. She wasn't getting proper help. So it's very emotional. And I'm experiencing that. So
Mm.
I'm grateful that I'm experiencing that because it puts me on the other side of the clients to have more empathy for them, right? So I like to use this when I talk to them. I talk about attitude, approach, and expectations, okay?
Right.
Because we really have to be on their same page and to see what's best for them, right? So I'm just going to read a couple of quotes here. I want to keep this light. Is that you can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. George Burns, right?
Mm.
So there's many facets to this. I'll give you three examples. We had a client that their family was here in San Diego and they bought a house in Oregon. He passed. Uh, he had a will, but the issue is he didn't tell anybody who were the trustees and trustors, right? So it was a big chaos going on. So we went over there. We had to remodel the place. Unfortunately, he passed on the house, and it was a mess. So we took care of that asset, and then sold it, and then moved the assets here to the family, right? So it's very important that you think about this, like Eric mentioned, because things could happen anytime. We could be driving and something happens to us, right?
Right.
So have that right attitude or frame of mind. We're always going to get older and older every day with time, so we should plan as I just have a granddaughter. Well, I'm setting her up something right now, right? She's just been born 6 months, right? So she has that life and the assets and stuff like that. And the other one is approach. Here's a couple of things that we must do is because of the internet, as Eric mentioned, there's a lot of fraud out there. I have seen seniors getting taken advantage of, right?
Mm.
So you want to find your right trusted advisor and interview them, correct?
Hmm.
The other thing you must have is if you do have a home, you must set up a trust and a will. Because if you don't, it's going to go to probate. And I experienced that. And that's a year to 2 years out in California. Okay. And that costs 15% minimum to get that out of probate. So these are some things that you need to think about that approach as you're getting to that age. Okay. And of course, the expectations. I
Mm.
have some clients, a client who the mate passed at 93. She was a young senior, and she was smart. We advised her what to do with her assets. For example, we added two homes on her lot, and now she's traveling the world. That's what she chose, right? And
Wow.
she's in her mid 70s, young, but she wanted to travel, right? Another one is like my mom, she doesn't want to go to a nursing home. Her wish is that she stays near the family. So she's 3 minutes away from me. Okay.
Mm.
So depending what that expectation that client has. Okay. So these are a couple of things that we see every single day. I have one from right now, it's a big project. They're from San Jose. And believe it or not, their taxes went up 25%.
Wow.
This is a $4 or $5 million home. And can you imagine being a senior, even though the home is paid off, that's a burden.
Right.
Yeah.
So she did have a rental here in San Diego. What we did is it's been since 1970. It looks like you're going back in time.
Mm.
And then we completely remodeled that, spent about $250,000, and she's going to move here in March. So we're selling that property up there, take that asset, then move it down here, and she's going to live here closer to friends because the tax rate is a lot cheaper here. So again, attitude, approach, and expectation. You should have the right advisor. Don't believe and hear everything on the internet, and really have a face-to-face or Zoom or come to the office on that. And that way, your road will be a lot easier. Uh, I wanted to share this other code. It really reminds me of this one customer I had. It says, getting older is like climbing a mountain.
Mm.
You get a little breath, but the view, it's much better, right? So with proper skills and proper consultations from people who have experience, your senior life is going to be a lot smoother and easier when you have care. So I just wanted to share that with you folks.
Oh, Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Dennis. Um, but what comes to my mind now is that, based on what you and Eric said, I think, it is easier, for someone like myself to kind of use, your advice. I mean,
Mhm.
based on what you said a couple of minutes ago, talking about starting early and,
Yeah.
planning for the future and stuff like that. But then a lot of families listening right now might be thinking, our money is already stretched. We don't have extra to plan with. They're already there. When caregiving is already expensive, where do they even start? You know what I mean? So how do we answer this question? How do they approach life at this stage? Eric, Eric, Dennis, if you wanna, react to this.
Well,
Well,
I believe. Go
Dan,
ahead,
you
Eric.
want to
Yeah,
take it?
go ahead. Yeah, Eric, you go take that one because with your advisor.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I think TJ, you brought up a great point. Dennis, you did too. What good panelists this time that you put together, TJ. This is a good conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Um, when you talk about to kind of parlay on what Dennis talked about, which is the attitude, approach, and expectations, that is the million-dollar question. How do you put all this together? Especially right now, as we're taping this in at the end of December 2025. And there's been so much, the jobs report just came out on Tuesday, and the AI bubble potentially is cracking a little bit. There's a lot of talk about this K-shaped economy. And
Mhm.
so at the top of the K, those are high earners with assets, homes, real estate, investments in stock. They've got cash, good paying jobs. Those individuals are probably not feeling too much in terms of the cost of living because if I have assets that are invested, those assets have grown into more investments in 2025. Sometimes, double digit growth for a lot of those asset classes. If I'm in that lower K, which at least half of this country is, that is a group of individuals that maybe they don't own a home. They're renting. Maybe they haven't got into the situation where they're able to contribute to a 401k, to a Roth IRA. They
Mhm.
don't have long-term care insurance. Their priority is housing, food, making sure that their credit card debt hopefully isn't ballooning because most credit card interest rates right now are 20% or more.
Yeah.
Um, and then now we're facing another financial challenge, which is caring for a loved one.
Right.
We'll use the case of I think we're using the example of parents. My mother's 81. My father's 82. Well, he'll be 82 on Saturday. So all of us on this panel are from a cost perspective, I think what you have to look at is how am I going to take care of this loved one and not get fired from my job when I don't have the resources to send this loved one to a facility overlooking the cliffs of La Jolla, which is a beautiful day today.
Mhm.
But who's going to have the 12 to $15,000, maybe even more than that per month to do that when I myself am living paycheck to paycheck?
Mhm.
This isn't really a pipe dream. This is happening every day in this country
Yep.
for many, many Americans that are in that situation. So I think that's where Dan, I can probably tee that up for you, who's probably going to be better qualified to answer that in terms of
Mhm.
what that reality is going to look like for the loved one that does have to they've got to go to work, but they might be in a situation where they can't leave mom unattended anymore. Or what's going to happen with dad if mom is out of the picture. It happens so much, but in terms of the day-to-day of that, my experience is more limited to just resources in terms of what does that couple have in terms of money. So then we play the game where the families are overwhelmed emotionally, just suffering the loss of that person or the loss of that person's independence, the victim, if you will, is not used to the idea of having no independence and having to rely on other people. I
Right.
want to go to the grocery store. I want to be able to pick up cards for my grandkids to send them for Christmas. I want to be able to do the things that I want to do. If I want to go down to Trader Joe's and pick up some flowers for my living room, I want to be able to do that. So there's like loss on so many different levels that what I primarily deal with is the financial aspect of things because that's where I'm best utilized. And so my role there would just be to huddle the family together if they're, in a situation where they're clients and really tell that family, hey, these are the resources that are available to that family based on what they've been able to save during their working years and how best to take that money out. And oh, maybe we shouldn't take all this money out of the IRA because that's going to put mom into a higher income tax bracket. And there are public resources available for some individuals. However, if their income blows up and their income is too high, because even though they don't feel wealthy, if they were to take a large withdrawal from the wrong account, they are automatically wealthy and they could be um, could land themselves in a situation where they don't qualify for assistance that they would have had they withdrawn it from a non-retirement account, for example.
Right. Right. Thanks, Eric. So
I don't
Dennis,
know if I answered the question or if I just bloviated, but
Yeah,
oh yes, you did.
um,
To
yeah,
the best of my knowledge,
yeah.
you
And Dan, I think 'cause Dan and I had a conversation a few weeks ago
right.
on. I loved what that K chart, the ones who are on the lower echelons, and I have clients like that too. And there is programs. Dan, can you share one of those programs that you mentioned a few weeks ago?
Yeah, there's a new programming coming out of Medicare, and it's called the Guide Program. And traditionally, no funds have ever come out of an agency like that, right? You either you're stuck or you're not. And this allows them $2,500 worth of care, which can be about 60 visits for the family that's doing the caregiver. So that person gets paid, and it's kind of a win-win. You get a little relief, and at the same time, it's coming out of the same insurance package.
mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
okay.
I can share for those who are on the lower K, Eric had mentioned is what I'm seeing out there with my clients is uh, they're struggling. You're absolutely right. It's reality. They're having a hard time, and we provide services. Hey, at least get your will if you don't have a house, the basic things. So you have something to leave your loved ones, and they fail to do it because they're discouraged, right? And
Mhm.
I'm also seeing what I'm seeing pop up a lot right now in San Diego is homes are turning into rooms for rent for seniors.
Hmm.
So they're providing because they can't afford it anymore, right? So they're going into these rooms, they're paying 750 to 1,500, depending if you're in La Jolla, it's going to be 3,000. And they're sharing those with other seniors, uh, modification assisted livings. And
Mhm.
there's packages for them as well there. So I'm seeing more and more of these pop up. But the point is get the right counsel for what your situation are and take action. We need to take action on that attitude. Nobody wants to talk about this, right? But at
Right.
least if we could set it up with the expectation and the right approach so you can make that decision when it happens, you're feeling really calm and relaxed, and you know you're taken care of, or at least you have a plan. And really, that's what this podcast is about. Is there's options for people who are seniors. If you're one who's taking care of a loved one and then don't have the answers, reach out to Dan, reach out to Eric or myself, and then we could walk you through it to make the right decision. And you could be anywhere. The client that called me, he was in the Netherlands. He called me, right?
Mhm.
Somehow he found out about us, and his mom's up in the San Jose area, but they have a house here, and looked at our reviews. They liked what they heard, and they signed up with us, and that project is on the way right now. So we're really excited about that. And the point is, you're not alone.
Right.
There's people who really, really care and have empathy to hit your goals. And that's why we're doing these podcasts. I'm really excited about this one, Dan. Thank you for inviting me, by the way.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think really another thing is there are a lot of tools available for people. And that's one of the things that are kind of new. There's a RCFE, it's
Mhm.
just a residential home. And like Dennis said, you're just sharing a room.
Mhm.
But there is somebody there 24/7 if anything happens. So it's a growing industry because some people don't want to go and get into a place where there's 300 people having lunch at the same time.
Right.
Mm.
There's five people taking it, and it feels like you're still at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Dennis, I found that I'm in a situation as well with my mother who is not doing well medically. And I think, it's interesting. It's like when the doctor has something bad happen and then he has to go to the emergency room and then they see kind of like how it actually is in the point of view from a patient's perspective.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I don't know if this would be a good question for Dan or TJ, but I felt in that moment that, and I'm sure a lot of people will feel the same way, that you're just kind of guessing. And, it's, hey, talk to Dennis, talk to Dan, talk to Eric, TJ, etc. A lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want to, um, it's almost like a um, surrendering, if you will, to where, hey, I don't know this. And there's a lot of, um, whether it's the person in need of care or it's the caregiver, there's a lot of dignity that one has to surrender and say, I need help.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, besides YouTube, which was my kind of go-to source when I was on a deep dive of everything from medically assisted suicide to IHSS, et cetera, is there like one central repository that someone could go to if they really wanted to game up their knowledge on all of these topics that we're talking about right now, besides just yeah, you can Google it. Yeah, you can go to ChatGPT. Just don't ask ChatGPT to do math because they're not gonna, do it well. But if someone is reluctant and they don't want to, contact a professional because they feel like, oh, I don't have enough money to talk to that person, or I have too much money to talk to that person, or I don't want this to turn into some annoying timeshare presentation where if I
Yeah.
call them, then I'm going to start getting follow-up calls and text bots and that sort of stuff. So like, is there a nonpartisan, non-salesy type of place where one could go to really do a deep dive if they wanted to besides YouTube?
And I think that's
That's a really good question. That's a great
part of what
question.
we're doing here is building that.
Right.
So the contractor for that is TJ. He's loved his education, he's loved the industry, and now he's trying to open up doors so that people can see what's behind door number one without feeling anxiety. They can see what it is and move on to the next. TJ, why don't you give him a little talk about Ari Care?
Oh yeah,
And
thanks.
no, I was not, this was not a stage question, by the way, guys. I literally asked that. So the fact that TJ
Good
is
question.
actually working on this is pretty awesome.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm happy, honestly, I'm happy that you asked the question because yeah, I've seen this, your question is really is on point. I've seen this happen a lot. I have about 10 years of experience as a caregiver. I've worked, with Dan, for over 2 years now as an admin and operations management and manager rather, and I've been everywhere. I've met families personally. And truly, they struggle with this. They don't know exactly where to go. I remember sometimes in September, um, I have a family friend. Well, the husband he was suffering from Parkinson's and dementia, and it was going, it was just going down and down and down every day. And at some point, she didn't know what to do. She didn't even know when it was supposed to go, when she
Mhm.
was supposed to call hospice.
Mm.
Everything happened so fast, and before she could do anything, within a few days, she lost her husband, right? So, and I've met many families like that, so they don't know the right approach. So what I did, and with consulting Dan was that started a non-profit organization, and I know there are some others out there, but what we do is basically to educate, guide, advocate for families, caregivers, even
Mhm.
home care agencies in the United States to ensure safe, compassionate, and regulatory compliant, home care, to support, families, caregivers through training, resources, and like what we're having right now, bringing, experts in home care, financial experts, real estate experts to this webinar is one of the things we do. We want to work towards systemic improvement so that every family is supported, and everyone gets quality care. That's what we do. So we have website, and even Dan and I were talking some days ago. We're planning on, of course, we're going to have more webinars like this, and of course, by next month, we are going to start training. It's basic, it's free. We want you to just walk in and for as little as how do I change my mom's diapers. You can come in to ask those questions, or you can call us to ask those questions, or you can go to the websites to browse the resources. Of course, like I said, this is ongoing. It's never going to stop, and it is absolutely free. So I feel that, and I feel it is good to be vulnerable, with ourselves at this time because we need to support one another. And why did I say that? I started a series a few months ago, and I call it is okay not to be okay.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're not okay about, the financial stress or the caregiving stress or the medical stress or the home stress, it is okay not to feel okay. All you gotta do is to ask. We have many resources that just ask us, ask the questions, and we'll be able to provide that solution as more as I mean to the best of our knowledge. And to our audience, I will say again that you don't need to remember every program. We have a lot of programs mentioned already in this webinar. There's the insurance, there's the Medicare, there's the Medicaid, there's a lot of programs out there. You don't have to remember everything. All
Okay.
you have to do is just to ask us questions. Ask if you need help in any of the areas we're touching today, the homes, the getting retired, planning for a retirement, buying or improving on your homes, as far as finance is concerned, or you want a very good home care, or you want some other resources, reach out to us. I'm going to share the contacts of the panelists, very soon to the chat section, so you can just go there and reach out to us. Feel free, ask us those questions. I will be able to help you as much as we can. And I'm going to tell you again, without any fear of that, what you are hearing today is not, how do I put it? It's professional. So, so you are hearing from experts. So, quote us, come and we're gonna help you. So and again, please feel free to start dropping your questions in the Q&A tab. Before so while we move on to pulling everything together. But then I still have a question, Mr. Dennis.
Sure.
One big question families face is that, do we stay and modify the home or move to something more suitable? Because I'm a novice as far as realty and finance is concerned, but I've heard people talking about reverse mortgage and stuff like that. I don't know what it's about. So
That's a whole other topic. That's a whole other topic that we could talk about. Yeah, and I experienced that, and humbly, I've seen it'll say my age, the good, bad, and the ugly, right?
Right.
So you can have a discussion with options. If you're on the second floor and your knees are hurting, obviously there's ways you could deal with it if you want to stay there, right? And there's other ways, right? They have elevators now that'll go up and down, which it's really inexpensive. So there's ways. I did want to make one point when you mentioned that is also for veterans who are on this line, because I am a veteran, and
Hmm.
and one of the reasons I started this because I've seen a lot of veterans struggling, and they do have government programs.
Mm.
I do have clients right now as well who are senior veterans. Their loved ones have passed and they're living alone, and there's programs for them out there. And then we help them find that right housing to help them out because it's not easy. It's not easy, right? But
Hmm.
the point is, it takes two to tango, right? We're making the commitment now by announcing what the options are, but they also have to reach out to you, TJ, for help reach out to Dan and Eric as well, right?
Right.
And then there are options out there. And if they can remember that, that's the expectation. You're not alone. We live in the greatest country in the world. And if we find the right resources, we will get help. I want to leave it as that.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis. So pulling it together, right? I want to ask Dan Eric just this question before we move into the some questions are coming in already. So, Eric, for the families who are listening and feeling overwhelmed right now, what is one concrete financial step they can start or they can take in the next 30 days?
If there was one step and we're talking about a 30-day window, what I would probably do is a financial audit.
Mhm.
There is a famous YouTuber who comes to mind, and I'm not talking about going on YouTube, but a financial audit is very telling, and I would instruct that family to keep track of one's expenses for the next 30 days.
Right.
And so there's something called the Hawthorne effect that will kick in, which means that if I start really paying careful attention to things, sometimes my habits and my rituals around that thing that I'm tracking changes. But if you were to sit down with any of us and ask for help, money is going to be, whether that's good or bad, money is going to be the number one thing that we're going to discuss.
Hmm.
Money in terms of the equity of your house, money in terms of how much money is coming in. Money that's too high doesn't qualify for some of these services. Money that's low does. So money is really at the crux of this conversation.
Right.
And everybody can easily track how much money is coming in very simply. They look at one's paycheck stub, how much one is receiving from a pension, Social Security, et cetera. It's very easy to catch the inflow. It's the outflow that's really important because there we can really look at what the expenses are and see what that island B would look like if mom is unable to go down the stairs and does need an elevator. Would relocation make sense? Would adding an elevator make sense? Well, how are we going to be able to make those determinations if we don't really have a full, complete picture? Now, there are apps. Quicken builds a beautiful app. There's others out there that will track that spending for you. But actually doing the hard work and doing it manually on either a notebook or an iPhone notes or something like that. What did I spend money on today? How much was gas? Really that muscle memory of actually writing the thing down does have an impact on changing one's behavior if we do find that somebody's in a situation where they say, I can't afford to start a savings program. And it's like, bro, you're spending $8 on Starbucks 4 times a month. Is that really a need or a want? So we now we're not going to shame these individuals unless they ask us to. But really, it's more about finding not just the inflow, but what the outflow is. And the Starbucks thing is probably different for someone that's 28 years old than it is for someone that's 78 years old with mobility issues. That 78-year-old with mobility issues probably isn't doing much door dashing or going to, Starbucks for a daily latte. So it's age appropriate. It's also lifestyle appropriate as well. But you gave me the task. It was one tip and it was 30 days. And that idea instantly popped in my mind. Track your spending for 30 days and don't tally it up in between. Just spend as normal for 30 days. And then you'll be pretty amazed to see what you see at the end of it.
Right, thanks. So before I go to Danny's and Dan, I want to take a couple of questions. I have three questions here already. I think we can quickly go over that before we round up. So this person says that, well, his name is Alan. He says the question is, I'm the primary caregiver, and I feel like I'm carrying most of the financial burden too. How do I even start a conversation with my siblings about sharing costs? I don't know. I don't know how to react to this one. Who wants to take it?
Well, I think Eric just told
Eric, that's Eric's.
I think I was
back spending for 30 days. Yeah.
I think I was voluntold. Well, it's good timing
Mm,
because I think if I was in that situation, it's pretty straightforward.
mm,
Um, I'm caring for somebody. Here's what's coming in for. So let's just say it's mom. This is what's coming in for into mom's bank account. Like here's her income. I mean, this is exactly how I'd approach it. Um, I'm in a situation where my mother actually does need care, but I'm very fortunate at this point to where mother can afford her own care. If mom's resources were to evaporate, which could happen, then mom doesn't have any money. She has the same dream that Dan's parents had, which is I want to stay home. And so there's going to have to be who's going to bridge that gap. There's three siblings, and how does one split that up? Does everybody show cough up their last year's tax return and it says, well, this person's making twice as much, so they should pay 40%. This person should pay 30%, and the other person should pay 20. That didn't add up to 100, but you see where I'm going with it.
right.
So there's a variety of different ways to slice it up. But I think, hey, the holidays are coming up, and that's the other dynamic that a family has to look at is how is this family going to heal and what's going to be the long-term implications way after the caregiving stops. So 100% chance that we're all going to die. Someone that's receiving caregiving services is probably going to pass away sooner than someone that isn't, statistically.
Mm.
And what do I want this relationship to look like with my siblings after mom and dad are gone? Do I want it to irrevocably ruin that relationship? Because families have had friendships that have been ruined already, whether it's been COVID or who they voted for, or whether or not they want to wear a mask. I mean, that was stuff that we were dealing with, last couple of years. And so now you throw money on it, which is probably the most incendiary device there is in this whole topic amongst families. So the way I would approach it would be I would do a financial audit on mom, and I would say, here's where we're at with island A. This is what's coming in. This is what the cost of care is. And then I would do it like in Excel or Google Sheets. And then I would do, when something turns negative, it turns red. And it doesn't even have to be that fancy. And I would say we need to, I'd like to have a meeting and see um, what everybody thinks of this and how we're going to be able to bridge the gap. I think if you take that approach of not being dictatorial or aggressive or controlling, and what one may think is controlling behavior that they do themselves, other people may not think that it's controlling. Or you could be the most passive person, but the fact that you're going to bring up the money word makes you an automatic jerk.
Mm,
So I would take the approach of not making recommendations, not really necessarily leading that meeting, but just having hey guys, I just want to have a conversation with you about X. Here's the present situation. I want to get everybody up to speed and just simply lead with that educational piece, not so much a problem-solving piece.
right.
And I have to remember that myself, even when I'm at home, because sometimes my wife will share a problem with me, and she does not need a solution. She just wants to share the problem and have somebody listen to the problem and listen compassionately, not immediately offer advice and solutions. It's something I have to work on because I always want to create a solution. I think taking that former role where you are simply educating, stating the problem, and saying, what do you all think, would probably be my first step, and I probably wouldn't be making any recommendations or anything there. And hopefully, the other family members, the other people who are jointly dealing with this issue will have some suggestions, and that will also contribute. But I think if you show up, hey, we got to figure out the money thing, or we need to have a money talk, I think you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be resistant to truly opening up and listening to what you have to say.
Right, that's so true. That's right, Eric. So, but Dennis, this question is yours. So it's Devin. It says we live in a two-story house that's getting harder for my mom to navigate. So The question is, should we invest in modifying the home or think about moving, when we start thinking about
Yeah.
cost?
The number one question as they get older. It's like kind of like Eric said, we got to we cannot think in our mind, but we have to think on paper.
Right.
And we need to write down the pros and cons of what does A look like if we leave mom here with the remodel, etc. Who's going to take care of her, right? And what it costs, right? Versus depending what part you live in the country, what tax implications are that you have pros and cons if you do move or downsize, right? Those are the questions you need to sit down. And that's a great question you're writing now. That's a great first question. Then go from there. And then it's possible, all these options, what's best for her. And if the house has been there for, 20, 30 years, it's probably paid off. And then it might be a wise step to downsize, right? So it just depends once again what the client wants, right? Attitude, approach, and expectation. And that's a conversation once again you need to have. Uh, some of my clients who with that question you have what do we do when we're talking about siblings? Uh, here's what I know because I've been in these heated family meetings and they're not fun. It's kind of like Eric said. So just remember this, unsolicited advice is criticism.
Right.
Mm.
So really give that thought when you're giving advice out and ask permission.
Mm.
That's very important. You ask permission of what your thoughts are about this. If not now, when can we talk about it? So what we're doing with my family, just wanted to share, on finances. I'm supporting mom with my finances, and my brother is supporting her in the evening with visiting her, right? Because my time is limited. And that's just one way, a symbiotic relationship we have, right?
Mhm.
Another partner of mine, I think their mom's in Seattle or something. So he calls her every morning, Mom, did you take your pills?
Mm.
Every single day. That's what he signed up for. And then the brother who lives up there will go visit her, right? And there's more detail to it, but having a united front is really the key instead of being offensive, right? So just remember, have that conversation in the right time. Uh, Giving advice when not wanted is criticism, and that you really upset people when you do that, especially on this sensitive topic.
Dennis, I love that. It's like time, talent, treasures. And
Yeah,
in your family, that's not all equal. And
that's
and
right.
so the person that maybe has a little less resources to be able to spend that time that you're a little bit short on. I think that's a beautiful arrangement.
Yeah, and things could work out if we have the right mindset.
Right.
Again, I always go back with those three questions: attitude, approach, and what do you want out of this whole thing? What does mom want? What does dad want? Or whatever,
Yeah.
and then go from there. They use these words as a guide because most people get upset, will be heated, they'll uh they'll go dark on you, right? And you don't want that to happen because really you want this whole meeting is about helping and giving back.
Right. Thanks so much, Dan. This is Eric.
Hope that
Dan,
helped, hope that helped Devin.
thanks. Dan, I think that this should be the last question for the sake of time. So this is tricky. The question here is that we just can't afford this is she says we just can't afford every service, supply, and option that would be
Mm.
helpful. How do we know what to prioritize, Dan?
Well, it does seem that way. So I think the way you're going to do it is what Dennis and Eric have just talked about it, and that's the attitude and the approach. I mean, if it depends on what it takes and what you got. I mean, it's an assessment of the family and how they can do it. Some are going to be helpers. My brother was a huge helper. He was stayed in the community with my mother, and he would go down and run back and forth. My sister and I, we did different things to help our parents. So really just to set that approach together and you got to be positive about where you are. That's one of the notes that I took from him is hey, do the asset um, management look and see how it goes and how you can be effective and go from there.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for that, Dan. For the sake of time, we'll be, wrapping this up. So, Dan, I'm going back to you as roundup. So I just want to ask, how do you and your team help families think through both care needs and financial reality? You know, because like Eric said, we want people to be able to speak out. We want them to freely open up to you, so when they need help. So, based on your experience or based on the programs you're doing now, how do you help families think through this?
Well, I think that's part of what we do is we do a full assessment, not just on the potential client and what the needs are, whether it's dementia or transfers or different types of care that's needed, but we also assess the family and where they are financially to see if they can afford services. And if not, then sometimes we've sent them to the VA and they've been able to get some care. Sometimes we send them to some of the city programs and they can get care. It's not the same care that you get in your home one-on-one, but it's care. So a lot of that gives respite and time for the family to do the other part of the care. And so once you plan and have a plan sheet, then you can move forward.
Yeah.
Right, thanks. So, Eric, do you have any closing remarks before we go?
No, I appreciate both of all three of you, including me on this panel. And I think if there's just one person out there that this has helped in terms of to be able to provide a little bit more clarity, I think just it's very unique that 3 out of 4 of us are dealing in real time
Mhm.
with this situation or have dealt with this situation in the last couple of years. So this just tells us that the this reality is not something that might happen or it's like really far off. I mean, these are stories that are going to happen and they're probably going to see an uptick as our maybe our lifespan is increasing in this country thanks to the pharmaceutical industrial complex, but that doesn't mean that our health span is necessarily increasing. So I think the need for care is used to be something that nobody would really talk about because, like I said in my beginning comments, it was you buy the house with the picket fence, get married, pump out 2.4 kids, have a successful retirement, and then you die. That is hopefully the way that I envision my life happening,
Mhm.
although that hasn't quite started out that way. There's been some hiccups along the way, but I think this topic and just being able to be honest and upfront about not just one's mortality, but how are we going to plan? And the aspect that we touched on at the latter part of this webinar about including family, that was a great question because I think that's what people don't want to do, and they just want to shoulder everything on themselves. And yeah, if you've got unlimited time, if you've got unlimited money, and you've got unlimited talent, take it all on. But that's going to take a toll somewhere else. That's going to take a toll in a different part of your life. So ask for help is probably my concluding thought.
Right, thanks. Dennis?
I want to leave it off as whatever families are going through, it's not easy. And I'm experiencing that right now. But I just want to leave this quote here for us to think about. So when we go into this stage of our life, whoever we're helping, either ourselves or a friend, it could be a friend or family member. I just got a call this morning. One of my good friends, she's in the 80s. She's really, really been sick and she does not want to go to the doctor. So we're fighting with resistance. And the husband called me and said, "Hey, I need your help." And really, once again, that's what we're here for, is to help people. Because at times when they get older, I don't want to say the word, there's hiccups in thinking. I
Mhm.
can do it myself. Don't tell me what to do, right? And it could go on and on. These are real people who are having real problems because they can't do what they used to do, right? So
Mhm.
here's the quote I want to share with you. Be the change you want to see in this world.
Right.
Be the change you want to see in this world. And that's from Gandhi, a man who did so much with no money, no weapons, and he changed the whole country. Well, we could change our community here, one family at a time, by giving great advice, by being sympathetic and humbling ourselves, because we're going to get there at one time. We're going to get old and we're going to need the help. So let's be the change for our parents, be the change for our neighbors, be the change for our senior friends, and things will be easy, get better for them. I want to leave it at that.
Oh, that's deep. Thanks so much. Thank you,
Yep.
Dan. Thank you, Eric. Thank you,
Thank
Danny. And
you.
thank you to everyone who joined us
Thank
today.
you.
Yeah, our goal was to help you feel a little more informed, a little more equipped, and a little less alone. Now you're not alone. You have wealth of resources. You have real people you can talk to. Like Eric said, please. Well, you are free to. You have a computer. You have your phone. You're free to look up ChatGPT or YouTube or Google, but they cannot help you. The compassion you need, the listening here you need can't be gotten through those sources. You need real people. So like once again, I've sent the contact information of our panelists, to the chat. Go there, write them out, write them, just discuss with them, and they'll be able to help, I'm sure about that. Thank you once again, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, T. Thank you, folks.
Right.
And I'll talk to you all soon. Have
All
a
right.
blessed day.
You too.
Have a blessed
Merry Christmas. Be blessed.